I just realized all of that was muted. All of that was muted. I forgot to
Oh,
unmute.
what?
So
Oh,
let's try that again.
no.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Geeks and Noobs podcast. My name is SuperBeard Vince Hoover. I am your host, joined as always by Kel McCosplay. Take two. Take two. That was all muted because I'm a genius. That was amazing. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Thank you all for tuning in. Wherever you are watching this, if you are on Twitch, please hit that heart button, give us a follow. If you're feeling ever so generous, it helps out the podcast a lot. If you can subscribe, it's just $5 a month, or you can use your Amazon Prime subscription and make Jeffrey Bezos pay for it. Also, if you're on YouTube, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so you know every time we go live and when we put out new videos, shorts, etc. If you're on Facebook, hit that thumbs up button, share it with all your friends. And also, please make sure you join in on the conversation. We want to hear from you guys, so jump in the chat wherever you're at. Jason says, good mythical night. It's really great here. No audio. Yeah, there was no audio because my dumb ass forgot to unmute. Fun times. Anyways.
Shine
So for anybody that happened to catch the thumbnail, the MCU is dead, baby. It's over. It's done.
X's in the eyes.
It's dead. The dceu is going to take over and be the biggest franchise in the world. Clickbait. All clickbait.
Yeah.
Because, quite frankly, it's the stupidest shit I've ever heard. There's literally, there's the infamous MCU's in shambles guy on TikTok. I give that guy enough love. I'm not saying him again.
Yeah.
But this all kind of started around about 2 weeks ago, roughly. Marvel has had to delay 4 projects. And some of them are obviously huge projects. Deadpool 3, which just got its date announced through the Ryan Reynolds video. A couple weeks later, it gets moved back. So it's now from September to November. The Fantastic Four movie got moved back. The Blade movie got moved back. And then I believe it's Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Is the other one that got moved back. Which is obviously the huge kind of supposedly the end game of this multiversal saga. It should be the culmination of everything involved. So with all this, people are like, oh my God, what's going on? Is the MCU falling apart? Then people jumped on that. And then to top that off, they then use that. Look at what DC's doing. You got Black Adam reinventing the entire DCEU. He's finally bringing back Henry Cavill Superman. Now we're going to get a Superman 2, supposedly, with Henry Cavill. James Gunn is working on a mysterious secret project for DCEU. Apparently, Matt Reeves, who made the Batman, is making all these spin-off projects with Clayface and Scarecrow and Professor Pig, all these amazing villains. So all of a sudden, DC has everything in the bag and the MCU is dead and buried, according to these toxic dude bro idiots who want to just try to find any reason to bury the MCU every chance they get. Weirdly enough, this isn't the first time. It's not even the 10th time that Marvel has had to delay projects.
No.
Even pandemic aside, every announced lineup at a San Diego Comic-Con or whenever, you can't go back and find one that has been date for date, set for set, announcement for announcement the same.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, don't forget we had an Inhumans movie on the docket for Phase 3. That, of course, never happened. Because this is Hollywood. This is movie making. Things happen. And a lot of these moves kind of have to do with the fact that the Blade film has a bit of turmoil. Now, there is some turmoil. And it comes down to the Blade movie. The director apparently was going with this script. It was only 90 pages, which in Hollywood, a script, a page typically equals a minute. So 90 pages equals a roughly 90-minute film, which is incredibly short for a Marvel film.
Yeah, that would be
Apparently, there was only 2 fight scenes in the entire movie, and they were blah at best. In a Blade movie. So apparently, Mahershala Ali was not at all happy with it. Marvel was not at all happy with it. And so the director was let go, and he got the same treatment as like a Scott Derrickson, who did direct first Doctor Strange, but was let go on Multiverse of Madness. And when Jon Favreau walked away from Iron Man 3, they're allowed to be they're kept on as silent executive producers, basically.
Mhm.
But they're, he's off the project. And so in the fact that we have to rework a script basically from scratch here, like apparently there was really nothing worth value on the script at all, it makes sense to delay it.
Yeah.
Because you can't start production when you have to scrap the pre-production you've already done and start from square one. You can't start production that like they had originally planned, I believe February coming up. So they're going to have to rework some stuff and figure some things out. There's a lot that goes into the backstage side of things. Like let's just talk pre-production for a second. And this is again why it's not like, oh, well, somebody could write a script. I mean, a lot of these scripts get turned. You can turn an Oscar-winning script out in a weekend. Happened. I mean, Sylvester Stallone wrote Rocky in less than 3 days. Oscar Wilde's famous for writing his scripts very quickly. There are so many scripts out there that have been written in under a 2-week span that are like little classics. But regardless, you also can't use that as a metric to say, oh, well, I can get a great script out in 2 weeks. No, you just need to focus on getting a great script out and not try to focus on a 2-week thing. But here's the thing with pre-production. You need a script before, so you got to scrap all the pre-production you've already started, which includes, possible set design, storyboards, locations, which is a big part of this, etc. The new script could be in a completely different area. So now you have to figure out where you're going to be. You have to go scout these locations. You have to get the permits. You have to get the permissions, etc., etc., etc. Then you got to start building sets and all that other stuff, new storyboards, all that stuff. And plus, the script has to be approved. So it makes sense that Blade would get pushed back. Blade, I believe, is now moving to the Deadpool time frame, right?
Let's see.
Yes. So
Yes.
Blade has now been moved. This is all from the Hollywood Reporter, which is one of the few places you can typically trust. I say typically.
It's also
but
it's also on the official Marvel Studios website as well.
yeah, they have put these dates up now. So it was originally going to come out November 3rd of 2023. Now it's moved almost a year back. So this is the biggest move.
Yeah.
And this one does hurt because we're all excited to see Blade, especially with what has been built up lately. With the Moon Knight and the Eternals post-credit scene and the Werewolf by Night starting to bleed this. Even Loki, mention of vampires. All that supernatural stuff starting to bleed in. The fact that Blade is getting pushed back now to almost a year later sucks. It also forces Deadpool's move from September 6th to November 8th of the same year. So that's only a 2-month jump. So that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Now, in doing so, it's taking the Fantastic Four spot. And now Fantastic Four is going from November 8th to February 14th of 2025. This is, again, this is a 3-month jump. And then the end of the multiversal saga, the culmination of it all, Avengers Secret Wars, is moving from November 5th, 2025 to May 1st, 2026. However, the Kang Dynasty remains at May 2nd, 2025. Now, what's funny is a lot of the people that are showing that this is the death of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know it were the same people that were complaining that, wait, how can you have Avengers Kang Dynasty and then Avengers Secret War only 6 months apart? That's too close, blah, 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 blah. These same people were the ones that bitched for an entire year between Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
Guess what? Now they're going to get the bitch for a year again because it's literally a year and a day apart now. So instead of it being 6 months apart, which I was excited for, because I remember waiting that year. I remember writing news stories day in and day out trying to find any information whatsoever. And then now we're back to having to wait a year. So now we're going to get this penultimate film, the level of Infinity War where people die and things happen and it looks like there's no hope for the future. And then we got to wait a whole year before we get Secret Wars now. And you know what? I hope instead of doing what they did with Endgame, where they waited till almost the last minute to put a trailer out, I hope they never put one out. At this point, Marvel needs to just put their foot down and be like, all right, y'all want to bitch, y'all want to complain, we've seen it, we put it in our She-Hulk, we showed you what you are, you're still doing it, you're going to continue to do it, and they've got several years now. I was like, all right, no trailer, none. No trailer. You're going to see it anyways.
Yeah, you're going to go see it. That's the thing.
It's going to make $1 billion. We're not worried about that.
It was like we were both on the bandwagon for Spider-Man No Way Home not to get a trailer, because we didn't get a trailer for what, almost a month and a half before.
Yeah, and what happened as soon as the trailer came out? People nitpicked it, pulled it apart, and ruined it.
Yeah.
You know what? Don't give me a trailer for Secret Wars. No. Let me just infer what I got out of Kang Dynasty, and that's it. I mean, even I'm doing this now. Like, I've gotten to a point now where I'm just hoping it doesn't go do to Blade what happened to WandaVision. Well, I'm missing something here.
Yeah.
What happened in WandaVision that hurt it? Because WandaVision was great as far as I'm concerned. You'll have to explain that to me, Jason. Here's how I look at it. Like even when it comes to like Black Adam, I've watched like the first trailer that came out. There was the teaser trailer, then a trailer. I've watched that, and that's it. I've not even watched interviews, but unfortunately, like, I've even taken myself off social media because, again, I've gotten the post-credit scene already ruined for me and everything, but I'm not watching trailers. I was supposed to go see it this afternoon. My movie theater is down for renovations, so I may not get to go see it for a week because I'm not driving 45 minutes to go to a movie. Yeah, because the next closest theater is 45 minutes away. Yeah. So I'm not doing that. But between trailers like there was a time when trailers really spoiled films back in like the late 80s, early 90s. They just put everything out on a trailer.
Oh yeah.
And the narrator, like, they would talk over it and basically tell you the entire plot of the movie in a trailer. Then you got stuff like what was that one movie? Oh, it was The Amazing Spider-Man 2. 47 minutes of the film were in all the trailers. 47 minutes of an hour and 45-minute long movie were in the trailers. So almost half the film was in the trailer.
That's the same way I felt about Gladiator, the Russell Crowe film, when it came out. It was every important scene in that movie was in a trailer. So I knew what was happening, and I am in the minority of this, and people give me flack about it every single day I mention it. I hate that movie.
What movie again?
Gladiator with Russell Crowe.
Oh God, that's one of my favorites.
I saw the movie in the trailer, so I wasn't invested because I already saw this. I felt like,
I think that movie though is one of those ones that, like, you kind of go like, it's a very prototypical plot.
Yeah,
it's very, like, it's basic. It's Braveheart during Roman time. Like, it's just like, so to me, like, even if the trailer had kind of like ruined the plot, like, it didn't ruin anything for me because I knew the plot going in. It's your standard film layout. I get that much of it, but the acting and everything in it is so phenomenal. And I think that the story is well done. It's well shot. I think Ridley Scott kills it as a director there. And I love that movie. I watched it just the other night. As a matter of fact, I love that movie. I think it's Russell Crowe at his finest.
Yeah, I mean, not saying anything about
yeah, for that one, like,
me.
There are certain films that it doesn't matter if it's quote unquote the plot ruined, because you already, like, you could see a poster for Gladiator, know what it's about.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of know that going in. Like, there's some films in Hollywood that are very prototypical. But don't get me wrong, I love the series. but there were story beats that were off. Oh, I missed it. Because of the release dates, there were changes that, if you believe the actors and others, completely changed this. I do know technically WandaVision was not supposed to be the first film of Phase or first project of Phase 4. Technically, Falcon and the Winter Soldier was.
Yeah.
I think it hurt Falcon and the Winter Soldier more. Not really. Like, I didn't really notice, but like, there was nothing about WandaVision to me that felt out of place.
No.
I think that the only thing that to me that would have made it better was if they actually went ahead and shown that it was Doctor Strange trying to get a hold of her through the commercials, because that was the original plan. And they took that out, and I understand why, because it does kind of pull away from everybody featured there. It becomes another cameo thing.
Yeah.
So I get why they took it out, but I don't really think that really hurt it. So going back to Blade, I kind of already voiced this, but my concern is that is of all the films, it's getting a whole year pushback again. Like, and it's already been delayed. So is that gonna hurt it?
I mean, yeah, that's very much possible with some having getting all this supernatural stuff in the last few years with like you said, Eternals with his voice cameo at the end, Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night, and Multiverse of Madness, all this horror aspects and supernatural things going on. With this time being extended until we actually get this Blade movie with all this stuff that we're hoping to see in it, because like you said, we're going to have to rewrite the entire script.
So I am
But
of the mindset that I'd rather a year-long delay in a much better film than, oh crap, let's just put out this really crappy film.
yeah,
You have two-time Oscar winner Mahershala Ali as your lead. Now, I know that there's some people rumoring that he's going to leave the project because of this, but the fact that they fired a director and are rewriting the script at his request, I highly doubt it.
yeah.
Like, he was the first one to speak up and say, this is shit. So I doubt that he's going to leave. But, so I very much prefer a year-long delay versus getting a really shitty movie. That being said, does this kind of force Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios to maybe drop Blade in somewhere, even for a very quick cameo? Because remember, there was talk of Werewolf by Night. He was gonna appear. Michael Giacchino had talked about they were trying to find a way to integrate Blade, but then realized that it would pull away from the rest of the story and decided against it. So there was already thoughts of dropping him early. And technically, we already did with Eternals and at least his voice. So do you think maybe they find another project to bring him in to keep that palate warm, to keep the taste for him? Because again, we're now getting it all the way out to November or September of 2024 now. So we're literally nearly 2 years away from seeing this film.
Yeah. I think they would have to like at least name drop or find a way to tease him like they did Wolverine and She-Hulk. I think that would be the best way to do it, even if you don't introduce the character, the actual character, actually getting to see him, like drop some hints. Because I really do like the way they teased Wolverine in She-Hulk.
Yeah.
With guy with metal claws gets him fighting bar, just as a little wink and a nod, little Easter egg. Or when Nikki did the
and then even She-Hulk mentioning the X-Men by name.
X-Men, yeah. So yeah, I think they'll definitely have to do it some way, some capacity, but this might be a discussion for another podcast down the road. Cameos, do they help with hype, or did they hurt the series that they're on? Because they announced She-Hulk. What did everybody talk about? When's Daredevil getting here? That's all anybody cared about. So I think that hurt the show more than anything, even more than the dude bros talking shit about it online.
Yeah, no,
Because
that was just
that's all
the
they were
amount
wanting is when
the
are we
amount of
getting
butthurt
Daredevil?
people who try to justify their misogynistic takes as, oh, it's bad writing, it's bad jokes. First
Yeah,
off, none of y'all are right. I put this out on Twitter, and I'm going to say it again. The amount of people who try to criticize the writing and dialogue in film and television who can't even write a C minus third grade level 300-word essay astounds me. People who can't even have actual human interaction with people. People who hide behind their keyboards, and even then, it's grammatically incorrect nonsense in and of itself there. People who have no idea how to even speak to another human being try to talk about how, oh, this writing was shit. She-Hulk's
yeah,
writing was just amazing.
yeah.
Did every joke land? No. That's a
No,
sitcom. It's just how it happens.
yeah,
But the fact that they were very self aware, it was very meta on top of the fourth wall breaks. It was
yeah,
just not only was she meta, not only was she fourth wall breaking, but the show itself was very meta and using legit real world comments from social media in the show and et cetera, et cetera. It was geniusly written. And people want to point to like, oh well, the showrunner even said they didn't know how to write a law comedy. What the hell were they doing? A great job is what they were doing.
yeah,
They did a great job. You know, so and so again, going back to writing in this script that was only 90 minutes long, had two very flimsy action scenes, only two action scenes, and they were short and flimsy. Obviously, you got to rewrite it, you got to work it out, and the fact that apparently the original director was defending the script says a lot. I think about how because I think like Marvel like I think Marvel's been pretty good about having directors and giving them freedom
yeah,
to be themselves. Because Multiverse of Madness is very much a Sam Raimi film. Like I remember pointing out moments of like the camera, the pushing forward as it zoomed out trick, and then the camera tilting. And I'm like, oh, that's a Sam Raimi move right there.
yeah,
Like there was certain moments you're just like, oh, Sam Raimi, Sam Raimi, Sam Raimi. Um, and then Michael Giacchino, first time director, but very much was given for a first time director, was given all kinds of freedom. And look at what happened with Werewolf by Night. That is a brilliant piece of media right there. It is so well done. It is so much fun. You could have given me a full feature length on that
yeah.
instead of just 45 minutes.
No,
Like if you had done even a 90-minute of that would have been amazing. Like if you had, because you literally like you understand like just the labyrinth scenes alone,
yeah,
like just adding to where this person attacks this person and this person finds Jack and Jack has to fight or at least try to get it like, and he does like that escape fighting where he's not really fighting back, he's just escaping. He doesn't want to like hurt anybody.
yeah. He's dodging,
That
parrying,
so
and
the about
trying to get away.
5 minutes, the 5 minutes of labyrinth, you could have stretched out to like 15 minutes and given all of the bounty hunters or monster hunters more time, even fighting each other, and then getting away. That alone would have stretched it out. Like there, but at the same time, I never felt like it was lacking. I just saw the ability to stretch it out to make it feature length. So there was an ability to do so, but it never felt lacking. It still felt cohesive. It still felt
Yeah,
solid. I didn't feel like I missed anything or I was uh, not given something. It felt very good. And that in and of itself, so there you have that. You have uh, the current writers and directors that have been on all the Disney projects, Disney Plus projects have been given a lot of freedom, and we're learning a lot. And it's just like I don't understand besides the pure like misogynistic and homophobic and racist tendencies of the toxic side of fandoms that are trying to bury the MCU is in shambles because it's too woke, which by the way, woke isn't even an insult, so that's dumb.
Yeah.
But the fact that people want to see this fail is just beyond me. We're getting something that many of us have waited decades upon decades for. Something that was never thought to be possible. We're seeing our favorite comic book characters come to life in amazing ways. And I know some of it is tribalism. Some of it is people who just cannot accept that, you know, the DC films have unfortunately up until this point failed. For the most part, some of them are bangers, but for the most part, they have failed.
Yeah.
There's a definite tribalism when it comes to comic books, just like there is with wrestling and everything else. I don't understand it. I love both Marvel and DC comics. I love them both. And I love independent comics, and I love like Vertigo and Image and everything. Like there's no reason to not enjoy it all.
Yeah.
And you can enjoy it for different reasons. Like to me, DC, everybody like there's been a trend recently about all these DC characters have an exploitable weakness, and yet in Marvel, it seems that they don't have weaknesses that can be exploited. Why is that? Okay, well, here's the reason. Most of DC are god tier superheroes, larger than life superheroes. Even Batman, a normal human being, is first off at peak physical and mental capacity. He is the top human of the species. Literally nobody can outdo him in anything. And then on top of that, his plot armor makes him damn near invulnerable.
Yeah.
And then because he became so popular, more people got behind him. And now, of course, there's the with prep time, Batman beats everybody. Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. No, he doesn't. It all depends on who's writing the book. Because if I got hired by DC or Marvel and I got to do a crossover event and I got carte blanche, I could easily write Batman gets his ass whooped by Squirrel Girl. Would.
Yeah.
Like there's so many like there's like it's all dependent on the writer. And I love that's one of the things I loved about one of the original creators of Dragon Ball was approached about the Goku versus Superman thing. He's just like, it depends on who writes it.
Yeah.
He's like, if I write it, yeah, Superman probably loses. Probably. But if a DC Comics writer, especially a Superman writer, writes it, Superman wins every time. It all depends on who writes it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of tribalism when it comes to wanting the MCU to fail. I get that, but that doesn't make any sense because even the disaster that has been the DCEU up until now, and I'm not sugarcoating anything here, it's been a disaster. It's been a PR nightmare for so much. We wouldn't have gotten any of that if the MCU failed early. That's what Warner Bros. Was counting on. They're like, this isn't going to work. It's going to fail. And so we're not going to waste our money making a bunch of stuff. We're just going to focus on Batman and maybe Superman.
Yeah.
We got Wonder Woman because Marvel succeeded. We got Aquaman because Marvel succeeded. We're getting Black Adam because Marvel succeeded. At the same time, and I think that, and this is going to kind of transition to the second half of this conversation, the way that, I think for lack of a better term, The Rock is kind of now in charge of the DCEU. Maybe not like officially pinned to paper.
Yeah.
But pretty much, right? And his comment about how, if somebody asked him, was like, do you think you can topple the mogul that is Marvel, the MCU? He's like, we're not trying to. We don't want to. We want them to succeed. We want them to be successful. I'm happy for all of them. We just want to offer an alternative with different characters, different types of storytelling, and be our own thing. We're not trying to be MCU dark or MCU adjacent. We're just trying to be us. That's the mentality they should have had from day one.
Uh-huh.
But again, that leads me to the second half of this, where the tribalist and the people who are just for some reason trying to piss on the grave of the MCU, even though they're like, "We're in our mansion. What are you talking about?" Um, DC has actually made some kind of big moves here recently, supposedly.
Supposedly, yeah. Grain of salt, people.
Yeah, I'm not sure if any of this can be fully vetted as of yet. Um, it would seem that because we are getting, we got Shazam: Fury of the Gods coming, we got Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. It still seems to be like there's some issues with that film as well. Still getting the Flash movie, even though now Ezra Miller faces up to 26 years in prison. They for some reason let him come back and do reshoots, even though they swore they would never work with him again and that they're going to recast him after this. They did let him come back and shoot reshoots, which I thought was really weird. They could have done that with a stand-in. But apparently, based off of and I know that Black Adam came out today, and I apologize for the spoiler because it was spoiled for me, and I have to talk about this. Supposedly now, and again, I haven't seen it yet because my theater is down at the moment. The post-credit scene of this movie is the return of Henry Cavill as Superman. Supposedly. In this supposed, for lack of a better term, leak from Warner Brothers, is that one of the 4 projects they're going to be working on is a Man of Steel 2. Bringing back Henry Cavill as Superman and finally giving him the sequel I feel he so rightly deserved. This is after all the talk of all these different Superman and Supergirl movies that were going to happen, that were going to try to move away from Henry Cavill. Now, apparently, finally, and this is, again, part of the rumor is the fact that the Rock had something to do with this, that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson pushed for this, is we're now getting Henry Cavill finally back in the cape.
But that brings up an interesting point. When I was reading an article about this that you sent me today, can we actually consider this a Man of Steel sequel, or do we need to consider it a new Superman reboot, especially if they're going to try to re-jumpstart the DCEU?
Okay, so here's how I'm going to look at it, at least for now. So back when the Incredible Hulk film came out, or was coming out, one of the producers called it a requel, a reboot / sequel of Ang Lee's Hulk, which is why it started in Brazil.
That makes sense.
It was a soft reboot / quasi sequel. Wasn't really a sequel. That movie wasn't going to really play into it, but they were just going to play off of it because originally it was going to be a direct sequel. And then they decided to go a different direction and decided to make it a quasi sequel. I believe that we're seeing that now with Daredevil. The Daredevil season 1 coming up of Born Again will be a requel of sorts, a soft reboot quasi sequel to the Netflix. I saw part of the post-credit scene on TikTok. Oddly enough, they used the old John Williams super build. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. They used the old theme from John Williams and not the Man of Steel theme. But they also used the Danny Elfman 1989 theme when Ben Affleck showed up in Justice League. Because it's just iconic to the character. That's all. Just like we talked about with Daredevil, how they used the Daredevil theme when he first showed up in She-Hulk episode 6. People are like, oh, there's proof it's canon. No, that doesn't prove it's canon. It does, just like it doesn't prove that John Williams or the John Williams themed Superman films from the 70s and 80s are canon to this, because it's not the same Superman. Yeah. It's just about a nostalgia Easter egg. Which, I mean, I appreciate, because I think John Williams' Superman theme is one of the greatest of all time. John Williams, just to me, is the greatest composer of all time as far as films go.
I mean, that man literally is the soundtrack to our childhoods. I mean, name every big movie from the 70s up till now.
Jaws.
Star Wars.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
It's just
so many.
But So I look at Man of Steel, even if, especially if they call it Man of Steel 2, but like, I think what they're doing with the DCEU right now is it's more of a loosely connected universe now. Because obviously Black Adam connects to Shazam and to Superman if Superman shows up in the post-credit scene, but not necessarily like fully a part of it. You know, like now they're like bringing Ben Affleck back as Batman and in an Aquaman movie, and you've got the Michael Keaton Batman in the Flash, and so it's more of a just like it's more of like a multiverse with very loose connections versus what MCU has done. And honestly, I think that's best. The MCU has kind of tainted people's expectations for a lot of things about things being connected, and I think that forced WB's hand a bit, and we saw the result of that being shit.
Yeah.
So I think that by just like, if we want them to connect, they can connect. If we feel like partnering up, they could, but there's no need to really worry about it. We're not building to some huge universal threat that has to bring everybody together. We're just kind of existing. And I think right now that's what's.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that was one of the things talked about was that a possible there. One of the other things, and this is a big one, is that apparently James Gunn is working on some form of mystery DC project. No word on what that project could be, but considering that James Gunn loves obscure characters and the weird characters, the sky's the limit for what he could pick.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of offbeat characters like that in DC. So there's just no way of even guessing right now what it could be.
yeah, it's really hard to say. Who knows? It could be a sequel to his Suicide Squad. It could be something completely different. There was talks that he did think about using Manganiello's Deathstroke in the Suicide Squad, and so maybe they do a Deathstroke solo film. I don't know. Uh, Lord only knows. So that one's really hard to speculate on. But the fact that we're getting another James Gunn led project in DC is huge, because I think he obviously killed it through the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he has said he's done with Marvel after Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Nothing against Marvel, but I'm sure he's still probably bitter over Disney firing him.
Yeah.
So he's doing this project and then he's done. I think DC allows him to. There's more like ridiculous characters to work with. Like, I could see James Gunn making a whole movie about Condiment Man.
Yeah.
Like, he would do that. So depending on how ridiculous he wants to go, he could do it. Depending on if he wants to, like, let me try a serious character, maybe he does that. Maybe his secret project is the sequel to Superman, because he's talked about wanting to make a Superman. So Booster Gold. He could do a Booster Gold film. That's a great option.
That would be I think that would be a great movie directed by James Gunn.
I think he'd kill it.
Oh yeah.
So who knows? The other project that's been rumored is, again, Flash 2, a sequel to the upcoming Flash movie. But that one, of course. So the new DCU movie updates also reveal that the Flash 2 was already written by Aquaman's David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick. That's a melt. Sequel script already being done is another sign at Warner Brothers' incredible confidence in the movie and readiness to move forward with a sequel if the first one is a hit. Reports have continued to slate that the Flash's test screenings are on par with the best DC movies. Studio already having a complete script for Flash 2 indicates that the sequel will happen if the first film starring Ezra Miller lives up to expectations critically and financially. It may also signify that Ezra Miller will remain part of the DCEU despite various controversies. However, they could also recast. And you know what? Being that the character is the Flash, they are fortunate in that if they don't want to put somebody else as Barry Allen, they could easily get a Wally West to take over.
I would probably go watch that Flash movie because Wally West is the definitive Flash. Because one, he did a lot more things than Barry Allen ever did in the comics.
I don't know about that. I mean,
Eh,
I think he
I mean,
has
it's
maybe
debatable,
maybe more
but
recently, but don't forget Barry Allen gave his life to end Crisis of Infinite Earths. And on
I mean
top of
that's
that,
true. I mean
that was not his
I'm
first
not
gimmick.
down.
Let me say this: there's a lot of debate over this, and
Yeah.
I kind of want to put it to bed because a lot of people who are Flash fans love Wally West, but a lot of them are too young to even remember how Barry Allen truly was. A lot of people are like, "Oh, well, the Barry Allen we get on the Flash, the CW Flash, is actually Wally West." No,
No, it's not.
Barry Allen. People are like, "Oh, it wasn't until Wally West appeared, and then they brought back Barry Allen did he come back." Um, as this whippy and funny character. I'm like, no, he's always been that way. Now, were a lot of his adventures beyond campy because of it would be in the 60s and 70s? Yes. Yeah, some very ridiculous stuff like the time they made him fat as a fat ray. Like craziness. But don't forget, Barry Allen also appeared in Marvel. So when he died in Crisis in Infinite Earths, all of a sudden, an amnesiac, blonde-haired speedster showed up. Marvel, drawn to look exactly like Barry Allen from DC. He was around for like a year, I think, and it turned out, although never confirmed, that was Barry Allen because he didn't disintegrate from running so fast to save Crisis Infinite Earths. He jumped dimensions to a whole new comic book universe. So he was called. I think he was actually called the Speedster, Marvel, and I think even the name he took, the initials were BA. I looked it up. Oh, yeah. They called him Buried Alien.
That's even worse.
Uh and his name they called him Fast Forward. I still can't remember my original name, but it's better than Buried Alien, isn't it?
Yeah.
Uh yeah, he appeared with a tattered red costume with yellow accents and boots. Felt like he had a ball of energy like lightning inside of him. He was from an alternate reality, and when he first appeared, the last thing he remembered was running, a reference to Barry Allen's death in Crisis of Infinite Earths, where he ran himself to death. But here, instead of dying, he was transported to another reality. He also declared himself the fastest man alive by the end of his first appearance, which he said just felt right. So yeah. So you want to talk about kind of groundbreaking things that the character has done. But Barry Allen was always quippy. He was always funny. People like to say that the Justice League animated version of Barry Allen is really Wally West. No, it's Barry Allen. It's just that, Wally West, who went from Kid Flash to Flash, I think just with the just more people nowadays know that Flash as their Flash because that's what they grew up on.
Yeah.
And so they just assume that's the best. I'm not saying assume, it's just to them it's the best Flash, but that's how that works. Because you got to remember, besides the death of Superman storyline, Superman has been Superman, has been Superman, has been Superman. Batman has been Batman. Flash is one of the few characters besides, say, Green Lantern that changes who's got the mantle.
Yeah.
And that's why there's a debate over Hal Jordan versus Jon Stewart versus Kyle Reiner versus Guy Gardner versus et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm always going to be a Hal Jordan fan. Always. But I get that Jon Stewart was the perennial Green Lantern for so many people growing up. And another great character. But to me, for a long time, Jon Stewart was very cold and very too much soldierly, too much like a cop. That's why I never resonated with the character. Hal Jordan to me was a smartass. A cocky pilot, smartass character. And I thought it was funny. So I resonated more towards Hal Jordan. Kyle Reiner to me was. It took a long time for me to warm up to Kyle Reiner. Because to me, he was just like very like kind of almost whiny. I don't want to I don't want to do this, like not scared because you're supposed to not have fear, but
Yeah.
like kind of like I don't know, pensive and passive. I don't know. And of course, Guy Gardner was just a punching bag.
Yeah.
So it just depends on what you prefer. But yeah, I think that you could replace Barry Allen with Wally West and then move forward with the Flash 2. And then it's also a double entendre sequel, but it's also the second Flash in this universe. So you can make it a double entendre, you can move it forward and not have to worry about Ezra Miller anymore. Especially with, like I said, he's facing up to 26 years in prison. So you don't really want to. I don't know. Hold on. What was the other one? Oh, and then okay, here we go. So the other thing that was rumored with these reveals from DC is that even though they are bringing Ben Affleck back, they are very excited for what Matt Reeves, the Batman, brought to the table. How good that film was, and they're going to expand that universe on its own. And so Matt Reeves is supposedly working on 3 spin-offs. Now it says spin-off projects, so it doesn't say if they're feature films or possibly HBO Max features or a series or something. But they're going to be villain-based. So one's going to be about Clayface, one's going to be about Scarecrow, and one's going to be about Professor Pig. So, and also this does make the first ever appearance of both Clayface and Professor Pig in a live action DCU project or DC project.
Yeah.
And it says it's expected that many of these Batman Rogues Gallery spin-offs would, in some ways, connect to the main story of Robert Pattinson's Batman. And of course, we are still getting the Batman 2 as well. Although it does seem they may have canceled the Penguin HBO Max show. Now clear that in addition. Oh no, apparently they're still moving forward with the Penguin show and the Arkham Asylum show. I guess they want to build up. They really want to build up the Rogues Gallery in this universe for Robert Pattinson's Batman. But what does that mean for Batman other universe? Black Adam, like the one with metahumans.
Yeah.
Because it feels like obviously I think Clayface you have to involve metahumans, right?
Yeah. I think even
Because
though his abilities were like he wasn't born with them, but he obtains them.
yeah, he becomes metahuman by a scientific experiment.
Yeah.
So like you have to the superpowers have to be involved somewhere if you're going to involve Clayface, I would say. I want the Clayface one to be about the OG Clayface that had no powers and was just a serial killer. Spelled cereal like the breakfast cereal, but that's okay.
Like killable.
Well, even the OG Clayface, yeah, he started out that way, but he very quickly became a superpowered being, didn't he?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, if these villains are going to be based on the Batman version, we could get like
Okay. The original Clayface actually only appeared twice. Basil Carlo appeared twice. What was the inspiration for the shape-shifting one we got in Silver Age, which we all know? So I'm trying to read if he ever. What did he do? He just uses makeup to pretend to be somebody else.
Yeah, that's where I was going with my thought there. I was like, they could just use that as inspiration and just have him as serial killer that is a master of disguise instead of giving him otherworldly, well, not otherworldly, but shape shifting, uh, yeah, shape shifting and abilities to allow him to become like the T-1000. You know, he made knives with his hands and stuff like that.
Well, apparently, according to this, even the original one had the shape-shifting superhuman strength, stamina, and durability powers.
Okay.
But what Carlo had that some of the others didn't have is he could actually replicate powers as well. But I don't think he got those abilities until after the post-crisis event. Because that's when Carlo was brought back. Yeah. So Carlo didn't have those abilities at first. Okay. So I knew, I'm like, isn't Basil Carlo the original Clayface and he can do that? He can post-crisis. Because he's injected himself with the blood of another Clayface. He just used, yeah. But at the same, okay, so I mean, yeah, you could go that route, but doesn't that, I don't know. Like, I don't think fans would be happy about that.
No, definitely not. I mean, we've
I mean, because
become
when people think
accustomed to,
Clayface, they mainly think of the animated series.
yeah,
And that's what we get in the comics now. That's what people want. And so giving us just like this real world guy who just puts on, you know, which, by the way, you can't do. Anybody who's ever worked in makeup will tell you that is not how makeup works in film. And it's a
yeah,
several hour process. You can't just put clay on your face, shape it up, and that's it. It's not going to stay. And then you have to, like, well, then it's got to be some kind of magical clay or something. And then you're already into the metaphysical there. So,
yeah, man. I mean,
I don't know.
they could pull out some comic book bullshit about you know, the same way that those cosmetics made Sharon Stone invulnerable in Catwoman. I mean, they can always do something like that
Yeah, I feel
because
like,
it's
I
a
just feel
comic book
like
movie.
people want to see that kind of hulking character too, though, right?
Or maybe, you know, set him up in the standalone film as just a serial killer who's good at disguising himself.
Yeah, I guess maybe you do his
And
origin
then
that way.
later
Yeah.
on, you could say that the company that makes this wonder makeup that allows you to change your face gets into his system and causes like an addiction kind of a thing where he needs it, and then it slowly starts turning his body. And then when you actually bring him in to face the Batman, he is this monstrous creature that can self-form himself into anyone or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, because you could definitely do the origin style where it's like disgruntled movie, actor getting replaced in a reboot of his own film, Clayface.
Yeah.
Like that's the name of the movie too. Like it was very much the movie was Clayface, and so he becomes Clayface to kill the actor taking his place, and then goes on whatever, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you
Yeah,
could start there. You could start
yeah.
it there.
Yeah, don't take a lot of comic book out of my comic book movie now. And that was my biggest gripe about the Nolan trilogy. Just I thought it was they tried to ground it too much.
Yeah, and I think that's what I appreciated about the Matt Reeves, the Batman.
Yeah,
Was yes, it was grounded,
it was grounded,
but
but
like he also shot himself with a bright neon green adrenaline shot and like had these gadgets and this the content like it was still very much like very like close to ridiculous.
it was. But that's why I appreciated it a lot more.
Yeah, I think that that one like felt more, although grounded, closer to a comic book movie than like the
Hmm.
Dark Knight trilogy was very much we are not a comic book movie. We just happen to have a guy wearing a bat costume. Um, this one he didn't feel out of place.
No, yeah, I totally
Like
agree.
Batman really felt out of place in the Nolan trilogy. Like you could in some world like you could look at the Batman film and think outside of Gotham there may be other heroes.
Hmm.
Like that wouldn't shock you. Um so yeah. Yeah, I think that you could start that one off. Professor Pig, I mean but that's the okay, so here's the problem. Scarecrow is what essentially? Serial killer.
Yeah,
Clayface is what essentially? A serial killer. Professor Pig is most definitely serial killer.
definitely.
So now you're going to get stuck in a conundrum of the same basic character.
Yeah, the same type.
So do you then kind of maybe gloss over Clayface's origin instead and go like into like very quickly cover the origin to get to him being in the like the Clayface factory where they or the clay factory where they make it falling in a, I don't want to necessarily say falling in a vat, but like needing more of it, you know, and it changing his changing his DNA or whatever.
I really think they should just uh adapt the animated series story that introduced Clayface because that story was just so on it. And the
And
fact that
done in
they,
half an hour. So you, this is what I mean by
yeah,
kind of speed over the origin. You do the origin that way. That way you're not having 3 series come out that are all on serial killers.
yeah,
Because again, Scarecrow is based on fear,
hmm,
and though he is a clinical psychologist, he's still killing people. Professor Pig is treating them like dolls and trying to make the perfect person, but still, at the end of the day, is serial killer. So I think maybe kind of gloss over that and do it like you said, like the animated series, and then get to the Clayface that we all want.
yeah,
Because then it's gonna make. I just feel like it's not gonna. It's gonna push itself away from the other two. 'Cause at the end of the day, you end up with 3 projects coming out that are all serial killers, and it like
it'd be like the '80s slashers genre all over again.
yeah, where it kind of it gets to a point like you want to know one of my favorite memories from that time. So you had
Do
the
tell, my friend. Do tell.
you had the Freddy movies, and then you had the you had Nightmare on Elm Street, you had the Friday the 13th, you had the Halloween movies all coming out, Pinhead with the Hellraiser films. It all started to feel somewhat the same, right?
Yep.
You know what really got me like happy during that time was the Toxic Avenger films because they were right along the lines of the same ridiculousness of a Nightmare on Elm Street or a Friday the 13th or whatever, but they
Yeah.
were just bright and colorful and stupid and some of the worst movies ever made, but they're so much fun.
Yeah.
And is it possible that not all of these spin-offs are meant for Matt Reeves' Batman? Could one or two be your valley? No, according to the report, they're all being done by Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves himself is making these spin-offs. And that they're supposedly all going to it's all about building up the rogues gallery for his Batman. So none of these have to do with Batfleck. Plus, you can't really build anything for Batfleck because the man's on his way out the door. Even
Yeah.
though they've brought him back yet again, he's already a Batman with 20 plus years experience. You can't build up new major rogues gallery villains for him. You just can't. It doesn't work. Plus, Ben Affleck, I don't think he wants to play. He doesn't want to do his own solo film anymore. I don't think. I think he's kind of like I'm cool with cameos. I'm cool with appearing here and there. I'm not cool with doing a whole nother film.
Yeah. Which is
So as far as these villains go, you need to build him off Robert Pattinson's Batman.
yeah, that makes more sense because one, Ben Affleck's definitely aging out. I mean, he can't do these action-packed movies with his age anymore.
He's not
Because
Tom Cruise.
yeah, exactly. He's not Tom Cruise. He's not going to try to be Tom Cruise. So yeah, we definitely have to, or they have to definitely build up Robert Pattinson's Batman for future projects. Now, whether or not Pattinson's Batman gets integrated into the DCEU, maybe, maybe not. Maybe he can just be his own standalone character. But then again, where does that leave the DCEU if you don't bring in Pattinson's Batman?
I kind of would like to see them build an entire the DCEU without a Batman. I would like to see where that goes. Mainly because I want to see the toxic fans, the toxic Bat stands, have their heads explode. That this entire universe is built without their Batman.
Vince Hoover, Agent of Chaos. That's what you are right now.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have so many god tier characters in Black Adam, Shazam, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, The Flash, Superman, Doctor Fate, Hawkman, Atom Smasher, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
And yet, the least relatable character for any of us is Batman. A billionaire with all the money in the world and no humanity whatsoever, and he admits that often, that Superman is more human than he is. So I don't think they need him necessarily. I think you keep Ben Affleck's Batman as like a veteran Batman that appears every now and then in this universe. And then you build a separate universe with just Batman. Because at the end of the day, if Superman truly existed, Batman's Rogues Gallery is over and done in a heartbeat. None of them last a day.
Yeah.
He puts them away forever. And in a prison of his own making, like on the Fortress of Solitude kind of thing, where they're not breaking out. Like legit gone. They're done. So build up a universe where only Batman exists as a hero, as a superhero. And then maybe build the Bat family around him over time. And let that be its own thing. And then the DCEU is more of these god tier characters with a veteran Batman that shows up every now and then in Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton. Because they said Michael Keaton's going to stick around as well. So you let them play with the multiverse. You let them jump around dimensions and do all this stuff and the cosmic stuff and everything else and eventually go to outer space and whatever. Let Pattinson's Batman be the only true hero. Build a Bat family around him with a Robin and a Batgirl, whatever. And no other heroes. And then build a Rogues Gallery that he has to fight. Even a metahuman like a Clayface. A Bane eventually, maybe. Stuff like that. Would be amazing. I think that's how DC should work it, but I don't work for them, so I don't know.
Yeah. Of course, if we do have Batman in the MCU or the MCU, DCEU, and we're going to keep Keaton and Ben Affleck around, the question is, when do we get Terry McGinnis Batman Beyond?
I'm too worried about them screwing it up.
Yeah, I am too, but
let them. That
would be the question everybody would ask.
As much as what I just stated, I think I've even planned too much out for them. I think that's too much on their plate at the moment. Let's focus right here. They don't even truly have anybody leading the charge right now.
Yeah.
Walter Hamada is out, which I think is a good thing. but they don't have somebody there. They don't have their own Kevin Feige, somebody like that.
Uh-huh.
So let's focus on where we're at right now and just see what we can keep maintaining. Once we can maintain, then we can build. So, in conclusion, in summary, the MCU is not falling apart.
No.
It is just fine. It is still the mogul that it always will be. It will be fine. Delays happen, and it's always for the best. But don't worry about Marvel. Blade will be great. Maybe we'll see maybe we'll see Blade appear in some project as a quick cameo before, or even the mention of him something. But Blade will be fine. Deadpool will be great. Fantastic Four will be great. Secret Wars will be great.
Yeah.
And DCEU side, that's just all wait and see there. This merger has hurt more than anything else because, again, the cancellation of the Batgirl film, stuff like that, which I was excited for. But let's see how Black Adam does. See what happens with this Flash movie, because that's the biggest question mark right now. It's the biggest kind of thing. Take a step back. Breathe. Nobody's dying. Marvel is fine. DC is rebuilding. But they're looking good. But let's keep our... When it comes to DC, let's keep the expectation low, but the hope high.
Yeah.
Keep the hope high, but expectations low.
Yeah, let's keep the bar low, but we can still step over it.
Yeah.
So
it's better to step over a low bar than to hit your head on a medium bar.
Yeah.
So let's calm it down. All you toxic dude bros and misogynists and homophobes and racists, go back to your holes. Go away. Shut up. Nobody wants to hear from you. Let's calm it down on social media. Let's and just as a final note, can we stop spoiling every goddamn thing?
Preach.
Like, can we just stop? Like, why we gotta spoil everything? And if you are like, I get like on TikTok, I've done spoiler reviews on TikTok and on social media, but I also put a big warning beforehand. I'm not just slapping some tweet up, which, by the way, if you tweet and you put spoiler review and then space down like 5 spaces, that's no, or spoiler warning and then space down 5 spaces. No, that's not how that works. Stop spoiling things on Twitter completely. Just stop. Stop trying to get clout by spreading rumors. Just relax, calm down, and let's enjoy the fact we live in the age of superhero films as a geek.
Yeah.
Like, we live in the greatest age for geeks. Right now. This is our renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of trying to tear it down, let's revel in it. And understand that not everybody agrees on everything, and that's okay. Just go with it. And if you don't like something, as long as you have valid criticism as to why, and not just, well, it sucked. Why? Because. Why? Because. Why? Well, yeah, because if the truth came out, it would be the fact that you hate the fact that there's a woman lead, or there's a gay person in the show, or the fact that there's a colored person as a superhero, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I cannot believe that those exact... how can we have a colored Captain America? Are you kidding me?
I was like, look at the comics thing. Sam Wilson's been Captain America for years.
But regardless, even if he hadn't been, what does it matter if we have a black Captain America? And the fact you're out here saying a colored Captain... Like, stop. Just stop. Everybody stop. If you have valid criticisms to why you didn't like something, great. We'll hear them out. Everybody be objective.
Yep.
Or be, open to criticisms. As long as they're constructive and done well. Let's not harp on negativity, guys. Let's ignore the negativity. Let's push it. I don't want to say push it down. Let's just eliminate it. Let's just... If you have valid criticisms, Don't come at people angry. Don't come at people because they don't agree with you. Don't come at people because they don't like what you do like, and vice versa. Let's just calm it down. Take a deep breath. It's all good. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the show. So we will see you guys next week, hopefully with a review of Black Adam. It all depends on if my theater gets the shit together. I can actually see the film. And as well, if Kel has time, because,
Yep.
you know,
Life.
obligations are a bitch. No, it's just, you know, that's life. It's how things are. But if we can't review Black Adam next week, we'll figure out something else to talk about. We'll have plenty to talk about. If you guys have any ideas of what we could talk about, hit us up, chat, on social media, whatever. It's all listed there. So once again, thanks everybody for tuning in. Please make sure to hit that like and subscribe and all that other jazz. And we will see you